And we are live, I believe. Yes, yes. Hello, everybody. Welcome to VKH Live. How's everybody going? How's everything doing? Super backwards with my greeting phrases. I'm your host, Jeff DeWitt. With me dying is Winona Peace.
With you dying. Yeah.
We're dying together.
Accurate.
Dying together as usual. So today we're going to be talking about DIV and, what the ex-members have been up to with their new bands. And we're also going to be kind of, talking about, reminiscing over DIV and kind of drawing comparisons between the two new bands that have formed from the former members, which are ACME and LapLus. And if you're not familiar with them, I'll show you. We'll show you, what they look like, and you can find their stuff on YouTube. But first, a bit of housekeeping. This is a live stream that is put on by VKH Press. Our main website is vkh-press.com. If you're watching this is our official channel. We would love it if you subscribe. It really helps us out. And
hit that like button, and if you would like to hit that subscribe button.
Yes, just smash that like button and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell, because that's a thing. Bell. That's a thing. I still don't
ring my bell. No, I'm kidding. Let me not. Let me
go. You can ring our bell by ringing the channel bell. So we recently actually broke 1,300 subscribers, which is like pretty awesome. So thanks a bunch for that, because I think that's a couple hundred up from when we first started doing these. So yeah, thanks a bunch.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. We'll probably do something for like 1,500, definitely for 2,000. But moving forward, there's going to be a few changes to the stream format. Just a couple of improvements I want to make and things like that.
I bet people are like, there's a format to this?
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, I'm going to be adding a format to it, I guess, is the main change. But so basically, I'm just going to be making a couple changes so that, maybe the stream's a little more visual, easier to interact with, just kind of upgrading what we're using to stream and stuff. So a lot of feedback I've been getting is that
getting a facelift.
Yeah, I'm getting a facelift, but our commentary would be even more improved with like visuals of the bands and stuff like that. And I totally agree, because otherwise I would have to like keep screen sharing. It's a pain. So I'm going to work on that and shooting for next weekend for that. Not going to commit to it, because God only knows, when I'll get to it this week, because we got a lot of stuff.
The problem is we keep making commitments to things that we can never get around to because of our other commitments to other things.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, bear
with us.
Yeah, that's why we do like tentative commitments, or like soon, general target, all that stuff. So
eventually,
I'm also thinking about, and you guys in the chat can let me know, how you feel about this, but I'm thinking about giving less notice about the stream ahead of time. It just so happened this week that I was sick for most of the week, so a lot of the announcements went up pretty last minute. But I've been following a lot of streams, and it just kind of seems like it might be more productive if we do it last minute, just in case something really cool pops up, so that we're not locked into something. I'm going to think about that for a little bit. You can let me know if you prefer to know like a few days out, like on Wednesday, if something's happening on Saturday, or if you're just kind of down for whatever. Long term, it's just going to be very impromptu, because I want to be doing more of these and start them during the week and stuff like that. But anyway, just throwing that out there. Main thing, change the format. Gonna try and make it more visual. Get some of the bands we're talking about showing up on the screen, things like that. So thanks so much.
I prefer to know a few days out so I can make the graphic. Jeff?
Yes, well, that's true. What's that thing beside you, Jeff? Oh, that's my microphone.
Jeff has always had that. It's his baby, but you don't always see it fully on the camera like it is right now.
Yeah, I'm sitting back more with my current setup, so I'm trying to, leave the mic closer. But so yeah, we can just we can get into it for sure. How are you doing on your? You all set to go with ACME, Winona?
Sure. I have to ad-lib it because as I said to you off air, Blogger has not updated their app, so I can't access my notes.
Right.
So
yeah.
I can ballpark it. Let me pull up the format that we have.
All right. Well, you got a little bit of time because we're going to talk about DIV. And yes, it is pronounced
DIV. You're
DIV.
talking about DIV.
No, we're going to really talk
div,
about that.
Like the hashtag.
Yeah, it's DIV.
Not div like the web tag.
Yeah, that was one of my first epiphanies of pronunciation of band names. Thanks, Jay Mello.
Same.
Yeah. And then we're going to get into ACME. Winona is about to put up a review in a few days for their Rotten Orange PV. And so she's going to give you some general thoughts on that.
Single. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, maybe one or the other. And then we're going to get into LapLus. And I'm writing a review for their first PV, and that should be up this week as well. So same thing. If you're not familiar with either of these bands, don't worry. I'll give a quick intro and everything like that. So let's get into it. DIV. So DIV is a very special band to me because if a lot of you have been following our podcast and following our live streams, you kind of know that, and this is pretty true with Winona too, that, we're kind of like adrenaline junkies. Like that's like our default when we listen to music. Cause
I need heavy metal to live my life.
Yeah. Cause
gets my blood flowing, helps my heart beat.
Yeah. Cause we're both uber sleep deprived, and Winona's got mad like exercise things, and I've got mad non-exercise things, sedentary things that just pile up with a lot of time. So I constantly need to be going. And so DIV was a special exception because they're one of the few bands for me where it's like the lighter rock that I'm like actually really into, or I was really into them. So they've kind of had a special place in my heart because of that. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. What I liked a lot about DIV is that they really had like this, they kind of did like, your stereotypical like Visual K sound with like the, the poppy happy chorus and all that. But they had like all these, I almost want to call it like ambient vibes like going on, like ambient sounds playing. It wasn't just like synth music or like, like high pitched, like different electronic sounds like you might hear in like Osharike. It was like this subtle thing that, especially on their first album, 01, that just like, just really like, it was like chill and energetic at the same time. And it just like, it worked out really, really well, in terms of like, me listening to it and digesting it. And, it's just very chill and uplifting, and, really liked it. Another thing that I think was really notable about DIV, and I don't think a lot of people really touch on this, but speaking to people, that we've done in our industry and other
non-speaking people
and other and other writers and things like that, we kind of realized that like DIV kind of takes like a Western approach to producing their music, and what I mean by that is that like if you probably notice that it's like DIV sounds like fuller. It kind of sounds very well integrated, but it's like the sound is very well integrated, like the electronic music and the rock music or whatever, but then it's also very full at the same time. It's not like rock music with electronic music like in the background or vice versa. A lot of their stuff kind of like blends together very well, and it's because that's pretty indicative of a Western style of production compared to like an Eastern style or a Japanese style, which is very like it doesn't make things clash, but it makes things like really stick out. So like if you listen to like a DJ like Teddy Lloyd, you'll know then you'll know kind of what I'm talking about, because like his music is just full of like different electronic sounds, like either going one right after the other or on top of each other, and they jump out at you and they really stick out at you and they switch up a lot and stuff like that. It's just two different types of production styles. But when I think it comes to rock music, I'm pretty strongly of the opinion that I think the Western style production is pretty superior. And I think the latest best example of that is like the Gazette's newest song, Falling. Like if you notice the sound sounds like really good compared to, past albums. Not that the past albums didn't sound good, but this was just like really good. It's because they were working with a Western producer, actually the producer for Lamb of God, which is a big metal band. So I'd really like to see more bands adopt that style. LapLus seems to be, kind of falling in that spirit. And that makes sense because DIV's drummer, Satoshi, was kind of the one that, he really did a lot of the songwriting. And,
you're gonna get into them, Jeff.
And we're going to get into
We're going to get into your turn.
Yeah, we're going to get into it.
You're going to get your turn after I get my turn.
I'm giving them a taste. I'm giving them a taste. Like,
right.
LapLus. Who's this LapLus? No. But yeah, that's like my general like breakdown of their sound and stuff. I can get into some other stuff, but no. Let me let you give your thoughts on DIV, your personal experience with them.
My personal experience with DIV. I feel like compared to you, I may have an unpopular opinion. Like I couldn't get super into DIV just because their music is just it's too light for me personally.
That's fine.
Yeah, like I knew they were huge. So yeah, I kept tabs on them as a media person, but there was something about it. Like I don't know what it was. I think it was mostly how deep Chisa's voice was in comparison to how light the music was. Because I was just like, dude, like I don't know what was throwing me off about. Like Chisa has a nice voice, and the music itself was fine, but for me personally, it just didn't seem to mix well in my brain. I don't know why.
No, I mean that's totally fair. Like I said, most other bands, it's not like that for me. Like that are sound kind of as light as DIV. But yeah, Asuka says, I think because it's a lighter band that I never bothered looking at them closely. And by that, I mean, I completely overlooked them. Yeah, I mean, totally. Like that's totally fair. I like totally relate to that for most of these bands. There's very few bands that like make light sounds that I'm able to like really get hooked into. Like the only other one I can think of is like Roy's right now. And they actually get pretty heavy sometimes for a Kira K band. I think for me, it's just because I do listen to a lot of EDM music, a lot of different DJs and stuff like that in Japan and in the West. So I think I just kind of picked up on some of that. Otherwise, yeah, it's definitely, the kind of stuff that it's like it's light enough that it's like you're either into that or you might be out of it. So, but a couple other points about DIV that I wanted to talk about. You just kind of reviewing their career a bit was. So they had their first album, which was called 01. And the general consensus on that from like the people that I saw that were following them was that it was great. It was solid. It was full of singles, but like it was also the tracks themselves were pretty fleshed out. It was just a very consistent, like that upbeat theme. And then the second album that they put out was called Secret. And I think Secret, the reaction was a little bit more that it was a little shaky, just because they went from like the more subtle experimentation or mixing of the electronic music to kind of getting into that more stereotypical, well, not stereotypical, but it's kind of a trope in Visual K that it's like, mixing like dubstep, like hard dubstep with like rock music and stuff. And they started to get into that, like the title-ish track, Secret Night. I know there was like a lot of contention about that. Maya says she wasn't a fan of Secret either. But she likes DIV and she thinks it's because of Chisa's charm. And it's because he also looks really cute and that his deep voice is like, it's like a huge contradiction. So it like throws you off. That's an interesting point for sure.
I think that's what my issue was. The contradiction just didn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
Personally.
Speaking of like Cheese's voice, that was something interesting about his voice, is that there's certain vocalists in Visual K whose voice seems really compatible with songs that use auto-tune sparingly, like for effect or whatever. In that, like, it's kind of hard to tell where the auto-tune would end and where his voice would begin. And I don't know if that's just like a certain type of voice or just like they're really good at like the production, so they know how to like nail that. It might be the second one, because Dive was a very well produced band, and Zombie, who's vocalist, I see it with their vocalist as well, that it's like you're not sure if it's auto-tuned or like if his voice is just like at this like just really good ear candy quality on certain parts of the song. And Zombie is an extremely well produced band, so. That was always something that I felt made like the use of the pop elements and things like that more organic, at least on the vocalist side. But I think moving past Secret, things started to get pretty divisive, I think, initially among the fans. And then I'll talk about the band members in a second. They put out music that was just kind of leaning into the electronic music. Experimentation even more. They had this single called Ikinai Kiss, which was it was like the PV was like shot in a club and everybody was kind of wearing club clothes and stuff like that. And I know a lot of people were really iffy about it. Me personally, I like actually super dig that song, because that's like one of the few Visual K songs that like plays with electronic music and stuff, and it actually follows like a legit like what I would associate with like a more of a nightclub formula. And again, going back into the Western production style, like there's a build up that you normally hear before a bass drop, like right before each of the choruses. And then instead of a bass drop, it jumps into like this nice happy chorus. And then, they have a great bass drop and breakdown in the middle. So if you're into that kind of stuff, it's cool. But if you're, it's good. But it's like, if you're following Dive for like more of like their first album stuff, it's more closer to the more traditional light Visual K band kind of sound, I think it turned off a lot of people. And then the last mini album that they put out, which I don't have the name in front of me, but I think it was EDR Tokyo. And that was where, like, for me, things like definitely started to go, seemed like it went off the rails, just not because it was bad or it was poorly produced, but it was just it didn't seem so much like Dive anymore. There wasn't like anything that really stood out from at least the title song or the promotional song that I remember listening to. And I listened to the whole album, and it was just, I almost feel like they over blended the rock and electronic music. And I don't know, it was a little concerning at the time, just because it was like, I was looking at the video and it was like Satoshi, the drummer, he's standing at his drums. There's no bass pedal or anything like that. And he's just kind of banging away a little bit. And they did that in Ikinai Kiss too. And that made me a little nervous, because I was like, oh no, are they like going a little too far into the pop thing? Like, are they going to go Imagine Dragons on us? Are they going to go One OK Rock on us?
You said it.
Yeah, I said it. I said that for you. So unfortunately, we didn't get to see how that panned out, because after that, they announced that they were going to be disbanding, and the reason they were disbanding was two of the band members actually said that they were leaving. I actually need to look this up so I can get this right.
It was dang, I had it.
Yeah.
One of them started, it was Satoshi and somebody else.
And the bassist, I want to say.
Yeah. It was Satoshi and the bassist, because Shogo and Chisa stayed together, and they did Chisa and Shogo.
Yeah, and then
ACME after that.
Right, but Chobi and Satoshi were the ones that initiated that they were departing, and then after that they decided to disband. So And it was very clear from the I mean, the members were pretty transparent about it, like, which I appreciate, you know. It was just, there was a very clear divide in like the different directions they wanted to go musically. And
that came through in the new bands they created.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's a pretty great transition into talking about the different bands. So yeah, that's kind of Dive in a nutshell. I do miss them. They were very good.
Dive, where Dive stands for divisive.
Device. They were divisive, you could
divided.
say.
Divided.
We have to make jokes about them disbanding, because if I don't laugh, then I'll cry.
We respect them, and that's why we make the jokes.
Well, it's just if we don't laugh, we cry. So,
yeah. The tears are behind the laughter.
Yeah. So with that, let's see like where those two, you know, because they definitely like split in terms of direction, and that has manifested itself in the form of two new bands. So we're gonna get into the first one, which is ACME. So I'll pass it over to Winona to kind of, if you want to describe it, or just like, you know, say whatever's on your mind about ACME. I'm gonna lock it onto you, and then I'm going to bring up you know, just some pictures and stuff, just so that people know what they're looking at or what we're talking about. So take it away.
Say words on ACME. They started as one of the most extra bands that I could think of, because, you know, their look from their first single, and I guess it was also their second one before Senko came out, when Chisa had all the stars on his face, and all the band members just had a lot of things on their bodies, and the drummer had pandas, a part of his costume, because who knows why. They were interesting. Their sound was very interesting, but I felt like how Jeff felt when they started out, like they were just kind of too much for us visually. We were just like, this is kind of a lot, and we just started calling that extra K. But then they came out like after Senko came out, then they came out with like Rotten Orange, and it's really interesting because it just feels a lot more cohesive. Like, it's not just that they're all wearing the same colors for once, like black and orange, but it's that the sound seems to make a little bit more sense in the direction that they're trying to go in, because now it's like super post-hardcore. They have the production is way more Western, and it just sounds right. And then Chisa is doing way more screaming than he ever did in the past, which kind of suits his voice really well. And when he says Rotten Orange, it like sounds like what he's trying to say, which is great, and it just hits hard at all the right points. And they kind of follow Rotten Orange kind of follows this kind of formula that ACME has always had in all of their songs. I don't know how to describe it, but the way how they've set up each of their songs is that their hooks will always be catchy, and the build-up will always be kind of expected, but yet unexpected, because you just want to keep hearing it, and it gets kind of addictive. So none of their songs are really bad, but the way how they set it up in Rotten Orange is it's way less electronic, so it focuses so much more on the instrumentals, and because it focuses so much more on the instrumentals, the breakdowns are so much harder, and the hook is just so much better, because once that beat drops, like it's an even heavier breakdown into the call out hook, which is Chisa saying Rotten Orange, like screaming it, and it's just crisp and nice. And let me see what I wrote here. Yeah, ACME's done a really good job of keeping their songs sounding pretty different, like despite that formula, but they really ran away with Rotten Orange in that respect. And I think it would really benefit them to try like new formulas while maintaining their core sound, because it sounds like they really found it this time with this post-hardcore sound. And even if the electronics were taken away, like they'd be solid. Yeah, and then on Rotten Orange, they also released Call My Name and Bar Quest. And Call My Name is like an adult contemporary song that was a theme song for a movie that came out in Japan. So it's more dive than it is ACME in the sense of what it sounds like, but it's still a really nice song. But Bar Quest is like the extremity of what ACME could do, like, because Bar Quest is like all screaming, and it's just really interesting to hear. So if that's the extent of what ACME would be able to do in that regard, then I'm all for it. And that's not the right picture now, Jeff. That's the wrong picture that you're pulling up there.
Oh no, I'm setting it up for after you're done. Sorry.
Oh, okay. You should get the one with the three members.
Yeah, I've got that pulled up, but I want to give like a quick visual history.
Oh, like from before and after.
Yeah, gotcha. maybe let me stop until you're done, so I don't distract.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
my
you don't
bad.
Distract me and make everyone wonder what picture are you talking about. No,
yeah, you're talking about rotten orange, and it looks completely different. Yeah.
Whoops. I was just like, that's not orange at all, Jeff. That's a total rainbow. But like. So I wanted to say, like, they aren't as heavy they've gotten heavier. They've gotten like way heavier than they were before. Not that they weren't heavier before, but they got way heavier. But they're not as heavy as Nocturnal Bloodlust, obviously. But like when they hit their breakdowns, they just hit them hard. And that's all that I have to say about Rotten Orange. You should definitely check it out if you haven't.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can kind of hop into.
Oh no, I wanted to say also, like, this is the direction that Chisa and Shogo were probably trying to go in, because when you listen to Dive, you can kind of tell like what elements they were trying to mix. Like this one, like they're the super heavy rock side of Dive, and then like what was it? Satoshi and Chovy would have been like the really electronic side of Dive. But yeah, there you go. I'm good.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah, let me go ahead and share the screen, just because it's definitely noteworthy, like how
how they've evolved. Like Jesus' look right now is one of the most popular looks I've seen around.
Oh my god, yeah,
it's really interesting. The feathers. And then also that music video for Rotten Orange, like there are girls in it. I mean, there were girls in their first music video, but this one just has girls just to have girls dancing in the background for no reason. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's rock and roll. There you go. Good job, guys.
Yeah, just dancing and
when there's no beat to dance to, which is what really kills me.
Yeah, it's sorry, a little technical difficulties trying to get the window set up, but yeah, it's very I'm wondering what beat they were told to dance to in that music video. You know what it reminds me of is and this is again, we're talking about the Rotten Orange PV and we can't show it, so we recommend looking it up on YouTube.
On ACME's official channel.
On ACME's official channel, yeah. The girls dancing in the music video kind of reminded me of do you remember the Silence and the End video by Death Gaze?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a part at the end where the girl he's singing about comes in and she starts dancing and twirling, but it's like metalcore, and he's like screaming at her.
She's like doing like ballet, and I'm just like, bro, what's going on?
Yeah, it's it's kind of wild. I mean, it works. It kind of works, I think. But all right, let's go ahead and share this. Let me know how that looks. I had it saved. I just been too lazy to like switch between the browser where we have our article and this initial photo.
There's ACME before.
Yeah,
very extra, and a little bit. It was a lot on our eyes. Not that we couldn't handle it. It was just we couldn't handle it.
Very, fuck it, panda.
No, you know what's crazy? It's crazy is that those pandas are still in the Rotten Orange PV. They're just on the drums.
Yeah, I know,
several times, and I was like, "Wow, they're there to stay."
Yeah, they really like. He really likes pandas. In that Senko PV, he's there's like on one of the close-ups, he's like he moves the panda like a puppet to like eat out of his hand at one point, like being like super kawaii and stuff.
I think that's part of his gimmick.
Yeah, so this is Mr. Japanese Sum 41 over here.
I know, right?
Top 10 anime crossovers.
If they, oh my gosh, if ACME were a band, if this era of ACME became an anime band, it would work so well. Color, they all have a specific color assigned to them. It would work too well.
There's just so much to drink in, and then like when the music video is moving and stuff, and it's a similar concept for their second PV, which is for their mini album that they did. There's just like so much to take in, and then when it changes to moving images, i.e. video, and like lots of different cuts and stuff like that.
It's just so much more to take in, and that first music video was just so much to take in.
Okay, so
Just so much.
So the reason I'm bothering to like highlight this is so first and second PV, many colors, all the colors. Third
Rainbow.
PV, one color.
Two colors actually.
I mean, two
But
colors
yeah,
if
it
you
was
count black.
an analogous palette. They had an analogous palette,
Yeah,
which is really interesting. And like they make orange look so good, and it's just that's a hard color to make look good.
it really gives me
So
hope because they've definitely been. I don't know if it's their
highly
makeup
photoshopped to
or
look
their
paler.
Photoshop. Yeah, they've been and their skin's been enhanced to look paler, especially Chisa, and that gives me hope as a real life pale person that maybe I can pull off a little colors with enough
A
help.
real life pale person.
Yeah,
Jeff, I think they're actually pale, but I think that they're more of a yellow pale thanks to the colors in the photo.
this is
So
true. This is true. Well, it stuck out to me because it
like
was
it's
like
got a
that's
more
pale like me.
yellow orange
Yeah.
hue. Yeah, it's pale like me.
Yeah, and the reason there's only 3 members in this one is that the bassist is on a temporary hiatus.
Yeah, he's recovering from an illness.
Yes, very, very true. So they were also selling this hoodie. It's an oversized
for a
hoodie.
very limited amount of time. Like it stopped selling. Like we made an article about them selling the hoodie, and it was going to end like that week or something because they were going to start the sale. They started pre-sales, and then they stopped the pre-sales after like 2 weeks, which is crazy. So
yeah, it's just like, all right, we're 3 releases in, and they've already got like some dope ass. It's not even
merch. It's like limited, super limited merch.
It's like a fashion line thing.
Nah,
I would wear that.
Yeah, man, this is.
Did we lose Winona? Okay, well that's all right. Let me check the chat real quick. Winona is mobile right now. She was coming back from traveling, so bear with us for a second. Let me see how she's doing. Otherwise, we can move on.
I dropped out.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I said it was going to be their own Black Moral, and then I cut out, and I got very sad.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. You're good. You didn't miss anything. I was already crazy about Roy's and Unite. Couldn't help but love Dive too. Chisa recently posted a pic of him with googly eyes on his cheek, so of course he did.
Of course he did.
I look forward to the lighter parts. Still looking for Dive in Acme. So yeah, that's a good.
If you listen to the B tracks of a lot of their singles, Dive is in there. It's just not in their single tracks, not in the name tracks.
Yeah, and that's fair. I'm gonna have something to say about that too, but with the next band, but that's very much like a new band syndrome kind of thing, or not syndrome, but like
they're still trying to establish themselves apart from Dive. Like every new band is like, we aren't the band that we were in before, and you have to accept that. And then they just really want to push that they have this new concept and this new sound.
Yeah,
but they're gonna still like hold on to their roots. So you'll only hear that in their B tracks.
Yeah, and it's it's taking the safe bet, picking the track that's best for promotion, as opposed to like an established band like the Gazette or Duran Gray, like for Dogma, they had plenty of tracks on there that would have been, had more mainstream appeal if they were PV tracks, but they were, they had the more, more confidence to kind of stick to the core concepts and stuff of their album and pick stuff that represented that instead of, stuff that's like, this will get the most views and stuff. But I don't fault like brand new bands for that at all. If you want to put your best foot forward in terms of your marketing, go for it, man. Like, yeah, but
because that puts their best conceptual foot forward.
Yeah. It's something they can afford to do at this point. So, yeah. So talking about Acme's sound versus Dive. So when I first heard Senko, which was like their first release that they put out, the first PV that was out, it seemed like a rawer, more punk version of Dive.
I thought that was their second one.
No, Senko was their first. No,
Senko is the second because the first one had those girls in it.
No, the first one was the one with the girls came second. That was their mini album.
Oh, okay.
Synchro was their first
Cool.
single.
I know nothing. I'm just gonna. I need a nap. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. But hey, at least with Rotten Orange, we definitely know where that is chronologically because it's like it sticks out.
Just came out.
Yeah. Well, it also like sticks out. It's like before it was
orange.
like crazy, and now it's like
they are a rotten orange, and that's what they are telling us. So.
Asuka says, "I'm quiet for a change today." LL. You can be quiet, Asuka. You can have a day off, night off. Just let us rant at you. And
yeah, I haven't shown my face in 2 weeks. Like,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, I mean, it may have been in my best interest to do the same, but because I was running around all day. But it's
see, I was also literally running around all day, and that's why you haven't seen my face.
Yeah. Well, you were running. I was the most sedentary, anecdotal version of running around all day.
You were running your fingers across the keyboard all day.
Yeah, just at various spots, which I would get to via Ubers. So just no physical activity.
No real running. You would get there via Uber.
Anyway, by the way, we're gonna do questions and stuff at the end as well. So we're gonna keep reading stuff intermittently. But if I miss something, or if you have something that you really want to ask, just wait till the end. I'll let you know, and we'll be reading the chat in depth at that point. So, but okay. So what I was gonna say was I want to talk about Rotten Orange for a bit. So just wrapping up what I was saying before, my initial impression with Senko was it was like a raw version of Dive. It was more traditional rock, way less emphasis on the electronic music. It really seemed like Chisa was really, trying to experiment and stuff, because he screamed a little bit in Dive, but not a lot.
With his voice especially, I think that ACME is really trying to push their instrumentals further than they are their electronic stuff right now.
Yeah, you can really see
sound more Western and appeal to the West more, even though they're still building up in Japan, obviously.
Oh yeah, and their looks and stuff would go over great here at cons and stuff like that. But so the first two PVs, first single, first mini album, very experimental and wild. Rotten Orange was very interesting to me because it was they kind of took what they might have learned and kind of focused it in one direction. And I think it's interesting because, it's basically post-hardcore music, which is something that's very popular in the West, but is not something that I hear a ton in Visual K. And if you're not familiar with post-hardcore, it's kind of like metalcore light edition. It's like hardcore punk music, but they mix in a lot of mainstream elements and stuff.
Just to give a Western example, fam.
Yeah, some examples that I was going to say right before you cut me off were Pierce the Veil, Sleeping with Sirens. Those are the really big ones. A Day to Remember goes in and out of post-hardcore. So
Jeff knows all of these thanks to our Ultimate Visual K guide, which you can see on our website.
Yeah. And speaking of, Rotten Orange is an example of that. The only other recent example I thought of was, Asuka Cold Rain is post-hardcore, I would say, for the most part. The all part. It's all post-hardcore.
They aren't Visual K.
I know, but people are probably more familiar with
J-rock band. Yeah, Cold Rain.
Yeah, so if you're familiar with the J-metal band Cold Rain,
that's why they keep showing up at Vans Warped Tour. Rest in peace, Vans Warped Tour after this year, honestly.
They're in a better place now.
Will be. It's on life support right now.
Yeah, they're about to pull the plug on that tour. Oh man, so many memories. Anyway, the only other band song that I know that is or release that is kind of post-hardcore like that would be Rave, their most recent PV, which was the one where he was like a serial killer kind of thing, and there was they was shot in a courtroom, and it was very much not what they normally are, which is an Oshari K band with a funky side to them. It was
it might be why they graduate from PSC now.
Yeah, that I would be very curious to see where that goes, because I'm surprised at how well it's going over, because I would say that those two bands are usually, they seem to be more on the light side of Visual K. ACME, it's kind of up in the air to begin with, but still I would put them more on the light side of Visual K.
Yeah, because they started with the light side as Dive, at least in terms of branding.
Yeah, and Raid especially. I was impressed by how much the sound worked out. The only problem that I have, and it's with both of them, or the thing I'm not sure about, and it's with both of them, but more so with ACME, is I'm not sure how I feel about the rough vocals that I'm hearing, because Chisa's voice is very suited to clean vocals, and so his rough vocals are very like high pitched and kind of screechy almost. I could see that being a turnoff to people that would normally like this kind of sound. Is basically what I'm getting at. But I think what really, like, the star of this song is the chorus, because it's like they take the post-hardcore part with like the kind of like breakdown parts and stuff, and they mix it with like, kind of a dive style like melodic chorus and stuff, and it works really well. And there are parts where the rough vocals are really good, like where they're chanting, well, not chanting, but like screaming over and over in English, Ra 10 to the core. But, obviously like 3 octaves higher and in rough vocals. It's pretty dope. I'm just on the fence. I'm curious to see how he's going to develop his rough vocals. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Winona.
I liked his rough vocals, Jeff.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's gonna go well. He just needs to keep working on it, and from what I've heard is that he has been working on it, or at least he's definitely been working on his pronunciation of English words for sure. So, and he's like really happy to hear that, like, he sounds like what he wanted to say. But yeah, I think it should vote over well, as long as he doesn't like hurt his vocal cords in the end, Like, as long as he doesn't do a wrong move.
Yeah, for sure. Maya says, don't most bands come back with a heavier sound? I guess historically, yeah.
Not during Gray.
Yeah, not during Gray. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe like in the last few years, yeah, it's definitely been a trend, because it's like, bands get lighter, have had a trend of, especially the neo Visual K bands, like the core ones, they get lighter over time.
I think this is a really good example, is that when Lime left Lezard and then made Kizu.
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah, because they're like trying something new. All I was going to say is, like, I'm curious to see how much longer that's going to be a thing, because we're really at a point where like the mainstream thing is alternative metal in Visual K. Yeah, it's like heavy stuff.
Really interesting. I think that since Genki Yosharike is starting to make a come up, it's kind of like the post alternative metal scene in Visual K scene, because like you're gonna have a point where you have some kind of pushback in any kind of artistic movement, and that pushback is going to be the absolute opposite of whatever's going on. So you're going to have, like, say, the modernists versus the postmodernists, and right now the modernist side, I guess, is alternative metal, and then you're going to have the postmodernists of Genki Yosharike, or rather they are modernists and they're trying to make a comeback with it, and postmodernism is alternative metal. Yeah, that sounds more accurate. So we're going to see what happens.
I'm going to go ahead and say pre-modern and then modernist, like move it back one, just because I don't want any postmodern Visual K bands, because it'll just be one guy strumming a guitar with one string, and you'll be like, this is art.
Gonna be, no. When you get your postmodernist Visual K band, you get Kamijo and Gact. It's not one guy strumming one guitar. You get one guy who says, I'm a solo artist, but he also has a support band who's always traveling with him.
Isn't that postmodern art, where it's like someone just dumped some paint on a canvas and they sold it for $100 million?
No, postmodern art, like, modernists have a structure. Like stylistically, they have a very specific structure, but it's the idea that you only use what you absolutely need so that it can be more easily mass produced. And poppy songs are easier to digest and are more easily mass produced. But postmodernists, they try to do things in a way that pushes the boundaries of what art is. Like they take the style, they take the structure, and they idealistically they would maintain legibility of whatever, like stylistically they maintain legibility of whatever information they're trying to put out. But when you look at like metal and like post-hardcore, like anything, when they're screaming, you generally don't know what they're saying, especially in deathcore, you don't usually know what they're saying. So that is technically the legibility that we'd be looking at, like what we can understand from what they say. So I would definitely put that in postmodernism. So
Right.
But there's a style to it, there's a formula to it, and we can understand it because we've been like immersed in it for so long. But it's so much harder to digest from the outside. So,
yeah, thanks for expounding on that. I'm glad I probed on that because I guess I wasn't completely understanding the analogy, but now it's like super accurate or clear to me. So cool.
Yeah, I'm glad to give an art lesson during a live stream. Hope everyone learned.
I always feel
it'll be a quiz.
Well,
no, I'm kidding.
I mean, I'm fine with it, and I'm the host, so you get to do this as much as you want. Okay, until
great.
Until like overwhelming concerns are raised. So here's a question that I have, because so I don't expect that when Osharike comes back that it's going to sound like old Osharike. I'm expecting it's going to still be kind of influenced by the mainstream trends, which is like everything is heavier now than it was like 5 years ago, 8 years ago. I mean, like every subculture of visual K. Roy's is like the leading Kira Kira band, and they're so much heavier than like what Kira Kira K was in like 2012, including Roy's in 2012. So my question is ACME the new Osharike?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because I don't think they would fit into their look is like right now I'd say they could be Osharike, but like Acme before Rotten Orange was like extra Osharike. Like that was like street fashion, but like maybe that was like Harajuku street fashion, my guy. Like
so, which is Osharike. So
yeah, kind of. Yeah.
It's not how we know it, but or it's not how a lot of fans know it. But in Japan, that's what it is. So
it's that's why I'm only saying like it's Harajuku Osharike because it's just
general Osharike.
Or what's the one that starts with a D? I forgot what that Decora. It could be Decora K too. Like that would totally be Decora the way how they did it. But now it could totally be Osharike because it's just hoodies.
Yeah,
just hoodies and black and orange and so easy to digest and to like emulate. So
yeah, just a side note in case people are a little lost by the last like 45 seconds. So Osharike is actually just a word for trendy or fashionable, and the Osharike actual like general definition in the industry in Japan is like bands that identify as that and then act it out by dressing trendy and like using like experimental fashion and stuff like that.
And also stuff that's like actually on trend, like what the kids are wearing these days. And the Decora K is like just super decorated. Literally, Decora is decoration. Like you just do whatever you want to dress it up as much as possible. So it is actually extra. It's so extra.
Right. Now, a lot of international fans think that Osharike kind of is like these crazy colors and stuff like that, that you would associate with like Sug during PSC era. Viva Rush is doing it right now. That's a subset called Genki Osharike.
You just learned that it was Viva Rush.
Viva Rush, sorry. And I'm like file on saving that so I don't forget it in my head. So that's where like the clarification comes from. So if you're wondering why like Sug said in our interview that with them that you may have read after they went indie that they were most definitely still Osharike even though they were dressing like in basically their street gothic kind of Harajuku looking fashion, they were completely correct on that. So and so going off the definition with like the trendy thing, I mean, with Raw and Orange, they sold like trendy fashion with like the with the single, man. Like I don't know how much more Ashari it gets. I'm not gonna put them in any box right now or any label, obviously. Like it's way too early, but food for thought, worth thinking about.
For Acme.
For Acme, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we can. I don't know. I guess we would put them in Oshari K, but it would have to be like a really I guess Extra K would be a subset of Oshari K, huh?
Well, I mean, I don't know if they're going to keep going with the Extra K thing.
Well, we just got to push it.
Gotta push it. Let's get into. Well, no, I mean, Extra K is stuck. We made up Extra K in case.
No, we got to push it on Acme.
But you want us to push it on Acme?
Let's push it on Acme. Let's
Can Acme be our poster boy for Extra K?
We can't force them, but we have to like influence it.
I love that people started using it after we posted the article. I was so happy.
It's great. Parody K was already a thing, I'm pretty sure, but Extra K it just explains so much.
Yeah. Asuka says 6-7 years ago, I found the trend was towards lighter, but then a few heavy bands came around amidst all the light bands, and then the heavy trend just grew and grew. And you found DID and Nocturnal Bloodlust from the countdown videos amongst all the light bands.
We're a postmodernism movement, man. That's all I can tell you.
I mean, I would apply that to like most of the visual case scene, like relative to.
There's a like I'd say like Extra Pan was the start of postmodernism, and then it got taken back into modernism with pop-ish sounding rock bands like Lunacy and like soft rock bands, and then it just keeps getting pushed back into postmodernism because like we literally just came out of a time where there weren't that many heavy bands, and now we're living in a time where there are so many heavy bands.
Yeah.
So
yeah, very true. Just a side note, I have not forgotten about the countdown, bringing it back. Still working on it.
We got to get James to bring it back. Just keep tweeting James. Just keep telling James.
No, don't tweet James. I'm helping him handle it.
Now it's Jeff. Tweet Jeff. Yeah, keep telling Jeff.
I'll make an announcement, fairly soon. I can't give any commitments because we're still setting up everything else, but it's on my list. I've been researching it, so work in progress. Just so you know. All right, so let's wrap up Acme, and then we'll move on to the next one. So last one I wanted to ask you is, where do you think do you have any ideas for where they might go with their next release?
Nah, fam.
No, yeah. Okay.
They just went totally left. I'm just hoping they stick with the analogous color palette. Like now it's orange, maybe the next one's blue.
It works really well. That PV really sells that song.
Maybe no. You know what I'm thinking? Orange was the one color that they didn't have out of their whole band because they already had red, yellow, green, and blue. So maybe the next one's purple. Maybe it's royal purple. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
About it. Who knows?
This was definitely the one that I was fairly paying attention to Acme, but this was the one that caught my eye, especially the visual style. And I like the sound overall. So interesting band, very different from Dive. You can definitely see who the more experimental, I guess, of them was, of the experimental members. It'll be just one of those bands just have no clue where they're going next, which is really funny because it's very different from Dive.
Really interesting. It's really interesting to follow this kind of bands because Rotten Orange came out, I was like, whoa, and now.
Yeah, and I'm also not used to following a band that goes crazy like this, that has musicians as experienced as... Sorry, can you say that again? You cut out. Oh, you there? You might have lost Winona.
Yeah, I just super. We're following a band very blindly right now. We'll see what happens.
Okay. You cut out for the last 10 seconds or so.
Yeah.
But it's all good.
My connection's been shoddy since we're still driving.
Yeah, no worries. Just crazy band, unpredictable, interesting to see where they go. Makes me nervous because bands like that kind of disband a lot, but I'm these are more mature, experienced musicians, so I don't really anticipate that with these guys.
Direction for volatile scene, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I love Blue as well, Maya. And she also says, I agree, keep it interesting, ... and light. Yeah, man, people really want the light music to come back. I get it. People really, whatever the most popular trend is in the visual kei scene, especially in the indie scene. I know people like to lift up the indie scene, but like those guys love to abuse like certain trends. Like I love like when bands mix like electronic music and rock or metal music, but I was about that. The amount of bands that did it, it almost got me sick of it. and now with the heavy metal and the metalcore, it's like, yeah. So I get it. If you're sick, if you guys are feeling sick of it, like it's totally understandable. So, all right, let's move on into LapLus. So let me see if I have a LapLus picture to show you. So basically LapLus is the drummer Satoshi's newest band. This is very recent. I think it was announced a couple months ago, and then their first release, Hakume, which is like a 5-track EP, came out like 2 weeks ago. So I've had it for a little while. I've been listening to it and reviewing it. If you guys don't know, or if you guys may have heard that Satoshi and Chobi, the bassist from DIV, they kind of did a live only project last year called the 12 Apostles. I guess it was just a live only kind of a thing, but the bassist is not in this band. Chobi is not in this band, but Satoshi is. Let's take a look at their at their look. Let's see how this shows up. Yeah, so can you see that okay, Winona, or does that come out really small? Let's see.
Sorry, I had forgotten.
Oh, yeah. Does that? Can you see that okay, or is that too small?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So, so pretty straightforward. Kind of reminds me a lot of DIV, right? Want to go back. Get a look at the members. That's the vocalist, whose name is Yuki. Guitarist Tayuya. I do have to read their names because I am only familiar with the DIV members. I apologize. Bassist Ryuichi. And then this is what Satoshi looks like now. Very different. Very interesting.
Very different.
Yeah. So, getting into let me switch back to YouTube, keep up with the comments. So getting into like their music sound. So my general impression is, and you guys can look this up, they have an official YouTube channel as well. They have a PV out for their title track of their EP, which is called Hakume. Basically, LapLus is they're much more like DIV than ACME is, but at the same time, they're more diverse musically than DIV. And the fact that I can confidently say that just based off of one EP kind of says a lot about the diversity of the music that they've made in these 5 tracks. So I'll get into that in a second. But talking about the PV track, Hakume. So the PV itself and the music for it, it's very, very standard kind of format you would expect from a band like DIV. It's very, kind of mainstream, upbeat kind of sound. It's not got a heavy aspect to it. So like if you guys are turned off by ACME, I would definitely recommend LapLus. but it's so tight that like it's the production and the composition, and Satoshi's drumming stands out a lot more here than it did in Dive. Just the general feel of the song is so tight that it sticks out more than like it stands up a little bit above like similar bands and similar songs. Like I would say it's it's nothing like unique or particularly special. It's just done really well to like, I would say borderline like Annie song levels of quality. Like I was listening to this, I was like, this could be in Naruto. Like this would be, I would have seen this in Naruto. So yeah, so it's kind of like you're gonna get the PV and you're gonna kind of be like, it's like a more it's kind of like Dive 2.0 minus the with less electronics, better drums, tighter composition, solid production. But I would say that really only applies to the PV track. I actually really recommend getting this EP. And I won't spoil my own review or anything like that, but the PV track is not reflective of the other tracks on the album, like at all. It's the only track that sounds like that. It's basically the only track that sounds like an actual Dive track or like that, lighter, more mainstream kind of formula. The other songs, they're very diverse musically in that they all stay within rock, in the lighter side of it. So it's not like it's diverse in that they're experimenting with bringing in electronic music and like pop music and stuff like that. But it's more like just a lot of variance inside of like light rock, soft rock, pop rock. So there's there's like one track on there that's like more of a traditional rock song with like decent like instrumentation for like that I wouldn't have expected from like a band that makes the kind of song like Hakume. There's a couple songs on there that are basically, I would say jazz rock, but I would actually almost say jazz fusion, which is usually like a broad term that can apply to a bunch of different artists and a bunch of different genres, that basically they take general elements of other genres and mix it with jazz music, and jazz is like the core thing. And it's just, they do it so well, and it's like so catchy and everything, and the guitars are there, but it's like, it's not like Acid Black Cherry where it's like it's jazz rock and there's like a punch to it. It's just it's very organically jazz fusion kind of stuff. And it was like I was like pleasantly surprised like hearing that, like after hearing Hakume. Because Hakume's fine, but it's like, for me personally, if it was like 5 Hakumes and that was like the whole EP, I might get a little tired of it pretty quickly. But there's definitely there's a lounge style like pop rock kind of song. It's like if you guys used to watch The Countdown, I know some of you did. If you ever remember like seeing any of Doubt's PVs, James used to jokingly call it Lounge K, with like some of their songs, because they sounded like you'd just be sitting in like a lounge, like a cigar lounge or something like that, and it's just kind of playing. It's all chill. There's definitely Lounge K track on there. So a lot of variety, way more variety than I was expecting. I will say Hakume, like we talked about earlier, was a very good pick for, the PV for their first, release. Just like set the tone that it's like, look, this is like, this is what we can do. This is like, we can make this really catchy, very broad, appealing song. It is a core part of our sound. We're not just doing it because because it's very catchy, and the way you can tell that it's a core part of our sound is that we did it really, really, really well. So it was a good pick for the PV for sure. Winona, do you have any comments before I move on through any of my thoughts?
Nah, I was more or less focused on trying to get all my things off of the vehicle. So I kind of missed everything you just said.
Okay.
No, I agree though. I completely think that Dive lives on in LapLus more so than they do in in Acme because of the nature of Satoshi. That's all I can say. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll tell them. Yeah.
Basically,
Sorry,
guys. No,
yeah.
no worries. You do your thing. Thanks again for like hopping on the stream, even though you're traveling. We all appreciate you. But yeah, so main takeaway is like for this EP is like you should check it out because there's a lot going on. It's all really good. It's all really solid, and it's not just 5 of the same song over and over. So definitely worth checking it out. You know, whether or not you like it is one thing, but I would say it's definitely worth checking out just because there's so much diversity in there. And they're all kind of on the same level of quality sound as Hakume, the PB track. So a couple things that stood out to me. Let me check the chat real quick. What if I end up liking them more than Acme? I can't betray Chisa like that. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So funny. Some people who like both are like, I feel like I'm playing both sides.
Well, the thing is, like, Satoshi was like the I mean, not to discredit Chisa's role in Dive, but you know, it's pretty
he was the guy.
Yeah, Satoshi was the guy for Dive, just like, you know, how Ryo and Garugamesh was the guy that like wrote and produced stuff, and
which is now completely clear.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it's incredibly clear. It's very clear because it's like LapLus, like all their songs are like super well put together. Like it's like, God, this guy knows how to make music, like solid, complete, finished products kind of music, you know. So it might be less of a betrayal to like LapLus over Acme than it is to like Acme over LapLus.
Especially if you like dives.
Yeah, especially if you like dives.
Honestly.
Yeah, so, you know, but I understand the bias towards vocalists, kind of people tie the identity to that the most, but you know, you gotta pay attention. Sometimes it's the drummer that's all the brains. Sometimes it's the bassist, like in Zombie, which I still love. Their bassist runs the whole show. It's great, you know, and it's interesting because it's like those people, it's like if you can pick out like which one in the band is the one that's like got the most creative control, then it's like if the band disbands, you can kind of immediately know who to hope for coming back and who to follow because they're most likely to reinstigate it and maybe bring in some of the other band members. If they're like that, some bands like Pentagon, it's like split 5 ways. They all contribute, you know. So anyway, getting back on topic, couple thoughts. I mentioned it earlier, but I really underappreciated Satoshi's writing abilities, but even more so his drumming abilities while he was in Dive. And I was listening to a lot of Dive today because like I distinctly remember being like, when I was going through the LapLus EP, I was like, man, I don't remember like the drumming like in Dive being as great as it is here, you know? And it's not like it's like, you know, this isn't metal or anything. Like, it's not like they're going crazy and there's all this crazy technical drumming. It's just, it's all these little subtleties that you can kind of tell the difference between like, you know, a pop rock song done by like a less experienced drummer versus like more of a pro. It's like, they know how to like add in all these flourishes and stuff like that, you know, all these little extra things that like add to the effectiveness of the song. And if they're really good at writing music, that like they know how to do that like really well. So I picked up a lot of that from LapLus that I really didn't see in Dive. And I guess it was just, like I said, I guess it was just because of the poppier element of Dive, you know. LapLus is less the pop elements, electronic elements are much more toned down. The focus is more on like the instrument, like the rock instruments, but being used in, you know, not necessarily in like not in hard ways, like in soft rock, easy listening, jazz, lounge kind of ways. And yet somehow I was still able to really appreciate the drums. So I kind of chalked that up as a win for Satoshi. I would also say that so comparing them to Acme, they're way more structured and organized. You know, they have a very clear game plan. And, you know, you can immediately tie them to dive. But as a result, I would also say that they're at risk of being more predictable. It's much more diminished than like I would have thought. You know, after like if you just listen to Hakume, you're probably going to be like, oh, dive 2.0. It's like that. And it's like, well, I mean, maybe it's a possibility. Like, yeah, it's not something. It's something you could bet on, you know. But if you listen to the whole EP, you would get like really doubtful because there's like a lot of like diversity of music. But that being said, you know, song structures still are very like mainstream friendly, stuff like that. Whereas Acme is really trying to experiment, for better or for worse. Bottom line for me is that I think like whichever band you like more is going to be like entirely up to like what you're feeling like listening to at the moment, you know?
I think the band you're gonna, sorry, I'm on phone, but I think the band that you're gonna like more is dependent on how much you like to dive and for whatever reasons you like to dive. If you like to dive because of Chisa's voice, you're probably gonna like Acme more. But if you like to dive because wow, dive, like the sound of dive, you probably are gonna like LapLus more because that sounds like dive.
Yeah, I mean, basically, like if you were like, you know, I guess like by the time Dive disbanded, like if you were like listening to their later stuff and being like, oh man, I wish they would get more experimental, you know, like I wish like it wasn't always like the same stuff over and over again and stuff like that, then you're probably gonna love Acme more than you would like LapLus. And if you know, around the time they disbanded, you were like, I'm down with like their general sound and everything. I just wish they would go back to like the first album where it was like more consistent. They weren't like all wild and stuff. They weren't like running the risk of like just sounding like another dubstep band. Then you're going to like LapLus because, you know, in a lot of ways it's like back to their roots, you know? So let's see.
The roots on Jimmy Fallon, haha, let me not.
What was that?
The roots on Jimmy Fallon, because he said the roots, and I thought of the roots on Jimmy Fallon.
Shout out to Jimmy Fallon. retweet our stream. Let's teach the world about Visual K and J-Rock. So I'll just wrap it up with what I'd like to see moving forward. I would like to see a little bit of experimentation, not like Acme style experimentation, maybe more like Alice 9 experimentation and A9 experimentation, like in that, like Alice 9 when they were on PSC, they had a very mainstream sound, but they definitely experimented with different genres at different times. It's kind of hard for me to like pick out like the best parts of that because a lot of it was for better and a lot of it was for worse for a lot of people. But it's like if you kept like the same rigid like core sound and like tried a little bit more dance sound and then tried a little more of like, you know, like a soft rock sound, tried a little bit more of maybe like get into some like old school rock and roll kind of stuff, you know, because there's a track on there I was leaning more towards that. I was like, this is like some good old throwback rock music kind of thing, you know, at least like for a Visual K band. I'm not really sure if I want them to be like Dive 2.0 all the way, like as in like, you know, they've got this core catchy solid sound and then they just go into what Dive was doing and continue with like blending the electronic music. Like maybe they go back to their first album, like how the sound on Dive's first album was, and just kind of expanding it from there to just literally be like an upgraded Dive. Or if like I want them to get really good at like what they're doing on Hakume, like the whole EP. I'm leaning towards, I just want to see, I don't know how much further they can go with like experimenting and stuff without like, you know, getting a little too crazy and then it doesn't sound like LapLus anymore. But, you know, I'm not sure which one I would prefer. And I also don't know which way they're going to go with it. So all I can say is I'm happy with what I've got right now. And, you know, we'll just have to see. It's another one of those we'll just have to seize. I would, if I was going to predict, I would probably just go ahead and bet on it's going to be more experimentation, like limited experimentation. So they're going to try new things, but they're not going to get like ACME levels of like experimental, you know. So yeah, that's that for that's all I've got for LapLus. Winona, do you have anything else to add? Oh, she might be busy moving around and stuff. But talk to me, chat. What you got? Is it like Unite's jazzy stuff?
You just said.
Oh, I said, did you? Oh, I said that was all about
shenanigans.
Oh, no worries. I was just saying that was about all I had to say. I've said my piece.
Okay, I said your whole review of LapLus.
It's not my whole review. It's just like general impressions.
Okay, a lot of generality there. Boy, it's a lot of general. Oh my gosh, such detailed general.
Excuse me for giving interesting and thoughtful commentary. You know.
Nah, that's what they're here for. They're here for your interesting and thoughtful commentary and my schooling of post and modernist and postmodernist and Dadaism.
Your interesting and thoughtful art breakdown.
My art history breakdowns and how it fits into Visual K for all the art majors out there, because let's be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I have nothing to say because I didn't get to hear their EP, but their music video was interesting.
Yeah, going off of the music video, what do you think compared to Dive?
Still low-key Dive.
Right, yeah.
Low-key Dive. Like, it's definitely, like I said earlier, like, because I was bouncing off of what you were saying, like, you're gonna, by this point, you'd know whichever band you like more because of whatever reasons. Like, if you like Dive, this is the band for you, because Satoshi was clearly the it guy for Dive, and it's definitely there in LapLus, so much more so than it is in ACME, because ACME just has a totally different dynamic and sound.
Yeah. It's just Chisa's voice is so distinct that it's like...
Yeah, that's like the main thing, I guess. Like, Dive, like, it's Dive. LapLus is Dive, but not Dive, because there were things that Chisa brought to the table that made it Dive, but it wasn't enough for them to say we could still be Dive without Satoshi. So...
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that if we want to give closing thoughts on just both bands or anything like that, I don't think we have a ton else to say, but like, or at least I don't, but I'm glad that, I'm sympathizing with who said it in the chat, Maya. I wish them all the best. Stick around, boys. We need more of you. We do need more of, like, experienced bandmen like the guys from Dive, because Dive really rose to prominence on their own, like in terms of like getting general success. I think that was like their breakout point for most of the members in that band. So it's good they stuck around. It's good they've come back and they're like dedicated to like two different paths of of musical progression. I do feel like the indie scene is very enriched by both of them, just in two different ways, like the indie scene, I mean. So I'm glad that it's like, we're really at a point where it's like, yeah, it sucked for the longest time that you had all those disbandments and stuff. But, we got Razor out of Born disbanding and Sati going on hiatus and My Bacteria Heat Island disbanding. Now we've got these two bands from Dive disbanding, So it really does make me look forward to, like, what happens when, like...
Why are you making everyone so sad by mentioning all the bands disbanding?
Well, I mean, because that's the core of our topic. I can't dance around it. We're talking about a disbanded band.
All the bands. You could just be like, hey, guys, look, Dive, is gone.
Listen.
No, I get it. I get the concept.
I'm going to bring them down, and I'm going to raise them up.
Is this what they're here for, VKH, your emotional roller coaster?
Yeah, basically. I've got you hooked. I've got you guys hooked. I'm taking you to the high highs and the low lows.
That's what they call an abusive relationship.
You guys speak a little closer to the phone, fam.
Isn't that what they call an abusive relationship?
No. Not necessarily. It's like extreme highs and extreme lows. It's like it's a thin line. It's a thin line between keeping it interesting and abusive. That sounds so bad. Just joking. Disclaimer. But yeah, so I would say.
Oh God.
Huh?
Did you hear me? Did you hear what I said before? I'm outside now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, what I was gonna close with, and then I'll pass it off to you if you have any closing thoughts, is that it's like, if this is like what it's like from like, you know, like Razor being formed from the bands that it formed from, and then these bands being formed from Dive, you know, like you can only imagine like what's gonna happen when like Garugamesh starts like the Garugamesh members come back, you know, and start forming bands, which I want them to do, and I refuse to believe that all four of them are just gonna retire.
They've been doing that. They've been doing that. Like
lately?
Shu, not all of them, but one of them did.
I'm talking like Satoshi and Ryo.
Samples, and he's gone on to be a producer, and I think we just need to accept that that's his life now.
Yeah, and
like, I don't know if Satoshi's ever going to come back, fam, to be honest.
Yeah, and I don't know when Ryo's going to go back, but he produced the Deviloof album, and he's producing their next single, and goddamn, like they're doing something special there. It's like, you know, like what if the members from Screw come back? You know, Sug just banded, but now we've got Sleepyhead, and I really like what Takeru is doing in Sleepyhead. Like that stuff's right up my alley. So it's pretty exciting. So Asuka says, what's Shu doing? Winona, do you want to get into that? Because I'm not really sure.
So I've mentioned this several times to you, Jeff. Shu is in Kiel, and he's also in Kiel with Ryo from Nine Goats Blackout. So you should probably follow Kiel if you really liked Nine Goats Blackout and Garugamesh, because what they're doing is super interesting. But I think it's because of where they are right now as a band, like they're still an indie band, like a super new indie band. So I don't think a lot of their releases are really are really available right now, but they're still really interesting.
Yeah, that's why I keep.
He's also doing like some kind of some stores. He backs a lot of stores for overseas fans.
Yeah, that's why I keep forgetting. It's like such a small band still. I haven't looked them up yet, but I should probably look them up given the combination. So. Still
a high-profile band, bro. Come on, low-key high-profile.
I'm sorry. I've been listening to, you know, Hakame and the Kamijo album
and Gazette,
the Dataroma album, and replaying Fall by the Gazette,
and Dataroma, and who else would be listening? Kizu, yeah, I know, I'm there. I don't get to listen to Keel either, but I know they exist.
Yeah, they're on Space Shower Music, right? That's what I'm seeing on YouTube. They have a mini album called R''YLEH. Really?
That sounds about right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, the vocalist is the guy from Hologram. The guitarist was in The God and the Death Stars.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll paste it in the chat for you guys.
Yep.
Trailer on YouTube from Speak Shower. So, okay. Yeah. Anything else? Anything you wanted to add to all that, or?
Nah, I'm good. We said all our thoughts.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
In conclusion, Visual K is very much alive.
Yeah. So, yeah, chat, if you guys want to ask us any questions or give your opinions on, like, you know, Dive and LapLus and ACME, or ask us like any questions or bring up anything, I'll read it out, you know, for a few minutes, and then we can wrap it up. But let's see. Maya says, I need to check out Kamijo still. Yeah, I'm still processing it. I think we're all kind of processing it. Have you started to listen to it, Winona?
Oh man, so many things. I mean, yeah, it's man, Vampire Rockstar is a track, huh?
Yeah, that's
that's a track, huh?
I like it. It's just not very Kamijo, you know. You know what throws me off is
yeah,
that
it sounds more Gacked to me. It sounds like Gacked got in there and was like, yo, Kamijo, man, you know it'll be dope though. That's what he went with.
you know what really threw me off,
Man.
and maybe it was because I wasn't paying full attention to the album at the time because I was getting work done, but the electronic interlude that precedes that track like hit me out of nowhere.
Bro, I know, right?
Like I was like, why is there electronic music on the Kamijo album?
No, you know why? It's because he worked with Hatsune Miku, so he's trying to mess with it a little bit because he's like, yo, this could get me pretty far, huh? And here we are.
Did he drop the Sang Another Story on the same day like he was going to? Because I wasn't seeing any preview for it on his channel or anything like that.
No, he didn't. It was because that's not under his jurisdiction as far as I can tell. Like Sang, this is why he named everything Sang, because he wants to get as much he can out of working with Hatsune Miku, so he called it Sang and called everything Sang and called 3 of the tracks of his album Sang and called all of his tours Sang and all of his events Sang, because he doesn't have the rights to Sang Another Story.
Yeah, but I mean, they announced it. He announced that it was going to come out the same day. So I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, it comes out the same day, but he can't. I don't think he can drop it like on his channel.
Oh, on his channel.
That is like, yeah, because
it's on CD Japan.
It's like it's kind of like how Miyavi couldn't drop his music video with Creva because it's with Creva, and that's a different management you have to deal with in order to get that out there.
Yeah, we should probably reach out to someone, try and get a hold of that so we can bring it up in future streams.
Hey, internet. No, I'm kidding.
I don't remember if I'm still reviewing Kamijo or if that was Shane, because we mentioned it on the podcast. I gotta go back and check, but whichever one of us is reviewing.
I think you were both.
Yeah,
I think it was both of you, honestly, because we were just talking about the Sangs and just complaining about the Sang. I think it was you, Jeff.
Yeah,
we talked about Sang so much.
Yeah. I think it's still me. I may be thinking of Shane for something else. It might have been. I don't remember. I'm still going through
different.
It was Kaya. Yeah.
Kaya, fabulous.
Yeah, Shane's reviewing Fabulous by Kaya. Cool. At least that was the idea, because this could be on the record. We haven't locked in any of that yet, so I don't want to like accidentally lock Shane into a review he suddenly can't do.
He watches the podcast. He's like, I'm reviewing what now?
He's like, God, damn it,
Not that he'd complain because he loves Kaya, but
he loves Kaya, yeah. So I guess because when I get to reviewing Sang, I also want to put up a separate review for Sang Another Story.
Good luck with that. Good luck with differentiating the different Sangs.
I'm just not. I'm just gonna be like, Sang is good, but Sang is better than Sang, but Sang is better than Sang.
No. But then you got to get into the 3 Sangs on the album. Sang.
Oh yeah, that's what it's doing.
So then there's Sang, right? Sang overall is good, but Sang is better than Sang. But that Sang though, but Sang right here though, Sang is great. Sang is dope.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't mind the album. That was cool. I need to go back and process it more. I feel like the Sangs could have just been cut down to 2 tracks.
I feel like not everything needed to be called Sang.
Well, okay, we've like established that and like been very brutally honest about how we feel about that, but I'm talking about musically, like.
I mean, I already gave my theory on it. I feel pretty solid on it, just cause. But yeah, Maya's confused in the chat. Maya, let me send you a link to the podcast episode where I very exasperatedly like break down everything that has to do with Kamijo's releases and upcoming activities. All have the word Sang, S-A-N-G, like past tense of you
Sang.
also need to send her the link. You need to send them the links to both of our articles about Kamijo's Sangs. Like the first one that I posted about him like revealing the details, and then the second one with the tracks revealed, the track revealed to Sang.
I want to say I have it linked.
No, they came up after the second one came out after the podcast initially came out.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I'll send you the article. You can look for Sang in the show notes. It'll tell you exactly where it is, and you can play it. But we we kind of get into it there, and then let me grab the Kamijo's stuff, Kamijo's articles that we have on VKH. But yeah, just everything is saying. Everything's relative, and that everything is saying. So
it's all saying from
here. The updated with dates. Kamijo reveals saying details plus available for pre-order. I think that's it. Yeah, that's really it.
Yeah, that's it. And then the second one was where we know that he has 3 sayings in his album saying.
Maya says, "Thank you guys. We're so spoiled." You're welcome. Hey, we like it. We love our readers and our viewers, man.
We'll spoil you with everything, but then you have to go buy the music.
I mean, I'll just speak for myself, but I think other people at VKH will relate. I mean, we know how much it sucks to like be the only one on your own, like trying to figure this stuff out.
Yeah,
you know, especially I feel really bad for people that live like, you know, in the middle of the States and, you know, like a small town, and, you know, they stumbled on this awesome music and like nobody wants to relate to it, you know, and stuff like, you know, I feel, you know, I've been through a version of that myself. So when we do this stuff at VKH, we try to do shit out of it. You know what I mean? No, I mean, we try and put like a lot of care into it, like get detailed and stuff. So quality over quantity is the main thing. But
absolutely, I'm a huge advocate.
Yes. As am I. Oh, here's the other article. I don't know. I'll say last. Let me post this here, and then I'll just say last call for any. That me, bro. Yeah, that's a guy. I feel you. The struggle is real. Yes, it is. So, yeah, I think we're good here. We can go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks for coming out, guys. Thanks for checking this out. Do us a favor and share this with any dive fans, you know, that or any fans of ACME, any fans of LapLus. And we will see you tomorrow. Hopefully, we have a special live
Sunday. Yeah, that's right. We do. I forgot.
Yeah. So, Winona, you are welcome to come, but I'm aware of your potential schedule conflicts, but I will.
There we go.
Let me post this last thing in the chat so you guys can see this. So we're having a special live stream tomorrow at noon. It's going to be called "How to Be an International Visual Kei Artist" with Shola Aurora. If you click that article, you get a quick description of who he is. He's a really dope U.S.-based visual kei artist, and he's you know, I've reviewed his past music. You know, I've talked with him fairly extensively. We're going to talk pretty extensively about being an international visual kei artist, struggles that you face with that, struggles that you face with being an independent artist. He's going to give advice to anybody who like is either, you know, interested in getting into like independent music or independent music specifically inspired by visual kei, but you're not from Japan. He's going to get into that. He's going to talk about what he thinks of the visual kei scene. You know, his links to his music are all in there. I would definitely recommend coming out. He's a smaller artist in the sense that he's not like known broadly all over the internet, but he's very experienced, and we'll get into all that tomorrow as well when he talks about his past experiences. But he's been doing this for years. I'll just say that. Let him expand on it tomorrow. But I like tuning into these chill streams. Thanks, Asuka. It's pretty relaxing for us. So, all right, let's go ahead and sign off. Thanks, Winona.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everybody. I just made it home.
Yeah,
perfect time.
Yeah, thanks for keeping Winona company on her trip home, and we will see you tomorrow.
Adios.
Oh my gosh. Sayonara.